The King Basketball Podcast. My name is Ben. Welcome to the 2025 NBA Finals between the Oklahoma City Thunder and our Indiana Pacers. Can we adopt them yet? Have we taken them? Cody, it's here. We made it to the finals. I am so excited. Today we're going to talk about this matchup. We're going to talk about we're going to get our all playoff teams on the record through this conference finals round. And we'll break down the matchup. We'll tell you exactly who's going to win by how many points and all that fun, nerdy stuff at the end of the show.
I have to say, like you make the joke about us adopting the Pacers, and I think a lot about how I wish I was ahead of the curve. Like, I will admit, being on the show with you week after week, you called this Pacers run like before the regular season ended. You were all over this. I was a little bit more skeptical. I was slow. I think during the second round, I started being like, this team's actually awesome. And I think that's when I texted you, like they might end up in the finals. But I feel like a slow adopter. So I can't in good conscience sit here and be like my Pacers, because I think I started catching on when other NBA analysts did. But I very much enjoy the Pacers considerably from an aesthetic and an analytical standpoint, Ben.
Yeah, we should have gone harder on we did an episode about dangerous teams and things like that. And all this time in the back of my head, I was all excited about the Pacers. And I think in that episode, we did not discuss them. We had our inner circle teams and we had some Denver and Lakers talk and things like that. But what I want to start with today about the Pacers is more about just the brand of basketball that they play and how exciting they are. And right before we recorded, we were talking about how, your a podcast that you're listening to with Matt Bellany. Is that his name?
Of the studio fame. Yeah,
yes, of studio. That's how I know him, through the Apple Show studio. And can you let the people know what he said? Because it's exactly what I wanted to talk about.
Okay, so just like paraphrasing, general citation here, but the framing of the conversation at the end of one of their most recent episodes is that like both Oklahoma City and Indiana are extremely low in terms of, I don't know the exact phrasing, but the fact they're not LA, they're not New York, they're not high on like making a lot of money in terms of big cities around. And I think there was a question in there that's like, I wonder who could even list like who the MVP is and he's in the series, right? And I was just sad when I was listening to this. I'm not necessarily sad about them talking about it, because the town is all about like, hey, we're watching all this stuff, the money making behind the scenes type of stuff. But it makes me sad that we're at the state of the NBA where the MVP is in the finals and it's not. And we have these two small market teams and the Indiana Pacers are this really exciting team. And the general vibe seems to be like, oh, bet you the NBA is really unhappy about this. Like it's terrible that we got to this place. And I don't know. I don't want to have like a giant meta discussion about how we got here, but it makes me sad that we are here right now.
The thing for me is it's like basically a dream matchup from a basketball perspective. And we can get into the actual interaction of the matchup later when we break down the series and how the teams interact with each other. But as a fan, I'm talking about the fan experience. You have arguably the best defense in the history of basketball. Just take that in. EuroLeague, college, FIBA, NBA, pick a decade, pre-NBA, it doesn't matter. You throw this team out there, and the way, at least with the way the game is officiated today, they're going to be probably the best team ever you could construct to stop whatever offense you wanted to put out there. That's incredible. And the way they do it is incredible. How coordinated they are, how fast they are, how smart they are about certain things. And then on the other side of the ball, you have the Pacers. And the Pacers, in many ways, sit on the cutting edge of offense, because the Pacers have all these principles that we've seen creep into basketball in the last 10 years, the skill ball and pace and space, and they can play 5 out. They play really fast. Of course, we had a huge video breaking down their offense. There are these little elements that remind you of the beautiful game Spurs, with a ton of quick hitting actions and ball movement. My favorite part of the Pacers offense is how they use the foul line extended part of the floor, like around the elbows, out toward the wings, up toward the top of the three-point line. They set a lot of flare screens, and it creates this beautiful side-to-side action. The Spurs in 2014 were a team that did that. So you have this incredible matchup from an excitement standpoint. The Pacers are one of the great stories, one of the great runs that we've seen probably in NBA history come through the playoffs. And it makes me sad that people have this impression that it's kind of a dud. And you hit on one more thing, which I've been thinking about. And I think just today or yesterday, I saw something about Shaq and Giannis The market thing, the small market thing, right? It's really weird to hear that as someone who has a national or international audience. We don't cover a team, we cover the NBA, and we have a lot of people overseas that watch our content. And you do something unlike the Knicks, the biggest market in the United States. People don't care. If they don't like the Knicks, they don't care. But if you do something on Toumani Camara, who's from Belgium and plays for Portland, and they like that, they care. You do something interesting. Now, some of that is the vagaries of YouTube specifically, but the point I'm making, I think, extends way beyond YouTube, which is that if you have a star in a market in today's game with the media access that we have, the star makes the market, right? Like everyone, it's really weird as a fan to hear the reasoning that people give about different markets when they say, like, well, Steph Curry, I mean, he's in San Francisco, so it's a big market. It's like, my friends, Golden State was a laughingstock for decades. No one was associating like Oracle Arena and the Bay Area with this giant market cachet that's attracting all these free agents. And when Curry was drafted there, it was just this beautiful place for him to blossom. And you kind of go around the league and there's a couple small markets and there are a couple big markets, but to me, especially now, it's the players, it's the team, it's the narratives, it's the style. That's what makes popularity, not necessarily how many people are in the greater metropolitan area around Oklahoma City.
Yeah, there's like different levels to it. There's like the media market that's like how many people are going to sit down and watch this particular game. Then there's like the online market. It's like how can we sell this particular brand, these particular names, this particular matchup and things like that. And then somehow there's like the on the ground marketing sort of thing where it's like how popular each of these players are. Because, you know, maybe it's this Minnesota thing. Maybe it's Minnesota just got out of the matchup with OKC. But I got to tell you, like, I don't hear like rave reviews about Shai. Like, I'm not hearing people walking around saying things like, I can't wait to watch the MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, in the finals. That dude's just cooking, and it's going to be incredible to see him maybe top off like one of the best all-around team player seasons in NBA history. So no one's saying that, right? And I think, I don't even know what it is. It's heartbreaking, Ben.
He's hated.
It's really sad.
He's absolutely hated. He's one of the most hated athletes that I can remember seeing. And it's really entirely this very bizarre narrative about foul drawing. There was a weird thing I saw somewhere online, which already, you know, you're already off to a bad start if you saw it online. It was about how like Russell Westbrook used to attack the basket and did the beautiful purity of Russell Westbrook. But Shai today just shoots free throws. And it's like, we have beyond jumped the shark. Russell Westbrook took more free throws than Shai. Russell Westbrook led the league in free throw attempts in the middle of the 2010s in Oklahoma City. So weird stuff, but very exciting matchup in terms of the basketball, which is what I want to discuss now. I said at the top, Cody, there's a little bit of like future of defense and future of offense with these teams, but it's always hard to figure out how teams are going to pull from the finalist or the eventual champion and adopt their ways. It's a copycat league. Sometimes, and I think we were slowed down in the 2000s when the 7 seconds or less Suns never won a title, and people get this weird thing in their head about like, you can't win a title that way. But as the years went on, other coaches were like, that play that they kept running, that concept that they had, we're going to put that in our offense. And then the whole league started adopting that. When teams win and they establish something overnight, then usually you look at the champ and you borrow stuff. So the question is, I absolutely believe that the tactics the Thunder use are progressive and forward-facing in the future, but can a team kind of like replicate that? Can the league learn from that if they don't have Alex Caruso and Jalen Williams and Cason Wallace and Jalen Williams, and I'm not saying him twice. They have two Jalen Williams just for fun. Lou Dort, right? Like if they don't have all that length, those hands, the wingspans, can it be replicated? I think that's the big question.
Well, first of all, to go back just a little bit to preempt some of the responses we'll get, I think some people talking about Westbrook would say that's an ethical way of drawing fouls. It's like, imagine Anthony Edwards' build, but he just attacks the basket every single possession. People are like, that's how you should get to the free throw line, not through some of the foul merchant shenanigans. The foul merchant shenanigans.
I don't even think these people watch the game. So yeah. Go ahead.
But the other thing I would say, let's talk about the defense then of the Oklahoma City Thunder. If you backtrack a couple decades, we go to 1996, right? Second three-peat Bulls. In the first team all defense, the Bulls who then win the championship have three guys on there: Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, right? And then, Ron Harper is on a team, another very strong defensive player. So you have, 4 strong defensive players. I don't necessarily think
Randy Brown also off the bench.
Randy Brown off the bench, right? So they have some strong defensive guys. This Thunder team, while they don't have 3 guys in all first team like defense, I don't know what it would look like if we had the Thinkies 20 years ago, but like you referenced, there's like 9 guys that were brought up in the Thinkies episodes that we had earlier. Like 9 guys who are so good defensively that they were brought up in our entire episode about the best defensive players in the league. So you talk about, is it replicable? I'm not sure, because the other team that seems like it would be like, hey, maybe the Timberwolves could stack up against the Oklahoma City Thunder because they have all this strong defensive talent. That didn't seem to work out for them too well across these 5 games. So I don't know. I think the Thunder team is special. I think they have this brew that's just working really well for them right now. And I simply just don't know what takeaways you can actually have from the way that they play defense, Ben.
The offense one is equally as tricky and sometimes harder, because you need special players. You need a Tyrese Halliburton. You need a quarterback or someone with that vision. I think some of the things are replicable, but it's always a big question. I think of the 1977 Portland Trailblazers and Bill Walton, and how exciting that offense was for people, how interesting it was to have all these cutters and movement guys and swirling around them. And it's like, well, that's cool. That's both the past. People had that concept of offense 50 years before that, and the future. Nikola Jokic, right? And the Nugget, like that's there. But in between, as my dog serenades us, and she feels very strongly about this. I've had deep conversations.
Yes, she's all about the 70s Blazers.
She's big Blazer fan. But the idea of like how can you replicate that if you don't have a passer and a hub at the center of that offense? And so that's always an interesting thing when you look at teams that play a progressive style. Everyone says like everyone plays the same way. No. Oklahoma City has been a special defensive experience since the first game of this year. That's why we've done like 11 videos on them throughout the year. And the Indiana offense has developed something that is very much their own as well, borrowing from these other elements. No one really plays like them either. One of the champs is going to be represented. The champ is going to be represented by one of those teams. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if we can get something that trickles down to other teams next year.
Let me ask you a question then, between the offense and defense. Which one do you think has more concepts that a team could borrow from on like some kind of standard NBA team? The Pacers offense or the Thunder's defense?
That's a great question, because I think they both have concepts in isolation that you can borrow from. My hunch here is to say the Thunder, because the Thunder do so many things. Like if you made a menu of the progressive defensive tactics that have been used in the last 5 years to counteract the offensive revolution of the pace and space boom, the Thunder basically check every box. They have crazy zones. Their zone goes to man. They're hyper coordinated. They play small. They play micro ball. They play jumbo. They play every possible coverage. They pick you up full court. They turn you over. And they use all these weird I shouldn't say weird. They use all these progressive smart tactics like peel switching a ton and triple switching behind the play. And we know we're gonna switch this pick and roll with our 6'1" guard. But the 6'1" guard has the technique where he's going to get inside you so you can't get over the top. And then as he's inside you, we're going to have a 6'6" or 6'8" guy on the back line come over and scram switch him out instantly. They've just dialed in every one of these concepts that they've seen. So it's a little of column A, a little of column B, but it feels like the Thunder just have a ton of stuff that I think is where we're headed defensively.
And I mean, beyond just like the smaller guys with the handsiness, they can switch all this stuff. They have a guy in Chet who can rim protect. It seems like with the best of them, like legitimately one of the budding paint protectors in the NBA. And then you have Isaiah Hartenstein, who I don't know if we made if we had a new category in the Thinkies that was like the most flexible pick and roll defenders, I mean, he would at least have to be brought up. Like he can go out there and defend just like a bunch of different kinds. It's like an Al Horford kind of thing. Like Al Horford might be like him, Draymond Green. Those guys are like the standard for like you can run basically any kind of pick and roll defense with them. But you have 2 big men who can't necessarily be attacked. And we see teams like the Knicks, for instance. You just had the was that a members video about the Knicks?
It was a members video, yeah. Patreon.com/thinkingbasketball on this interesting construction of the Knicks defense with a weakness at center and a weakness at the point guard.
That's exactly. And you have, a center in Towns where the defense is like, all right, what kinds of stuff can we do to get him away from the pick and roll? Like that's the best defense that he'd be out there. Whereas like Hartenstein and Chet, it's like, well, we can kind of do all of these different iterations and try some different things. So it's like the flexibility of the bigs and the smalls that they have.
I mentioned the 77 Blazers a second ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was a magical run.
Mm.
That was an all-time magical run. And this Pacers run has been quite magical. Now we can, obviously your rooting interests are going to influence how you feel about that stuff. But what I'm thinking of beyond just the aesthetic component, which I think adds something for certain fans, is the objective component. Where was the team? How good were they in the regular season? What was their seed? What was the probability that they won their playoff series? I mean, despite how we felt about Indiana, Cleveland was a massive favorite and the Knicks were favorites over the Pacers. So that's 2 upsets for them in a row. And of course, they've done it with these crazy comebacks. They basically had 3 1 in a million comebacks in 3 weeks, 1 in each series. So that's a pretty magical run. The 1977 Portland Trailblazers, they were Blazer Mania. They went on to win the title. I was trying to list, Cody, where this sizes up. And I kind of went through since the merger, since 1977. And there's only a couple other great magical runs I can think of before I list the ones on the top of my head. How are you feeling about this, dude? Are you with me about just like how crazy this run has been for them?
I think this is an extremely magical run. And I think it didn't really stand out to me. This is the great thing about history and going back and looking up some of this information is I went into this question thinking that I was going to come away with a whole barrel of magical runs. And there aren't a ton.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
there's some that feel like that you're like, oh, when I go back and check this out, I bet you that's it. But there's something that's just a little bit less magical than say some of the top ones. So I think I don't know, I don't want to necessarily rank it, but this Pacers one's pretty to the top. Like if you're not excited about what the Pacers are doing, obviously if you live in New York, obviously if you live in Cleveland, like I get it. Like I know how fandom works, but at the end of the day, I hope you can step back at least in a couple of years and be like, wow, if whatever happens in this finals round, what the Pacers are doing is really cool. Now, I do want to say before we start listing some, I think that there's one that stands out above them all that I think is probably at the top of mind for a lot of people. Let's push that aside for a second and bring up some other ones, Ben.
There's one that stands. Oh, this is so exciting.
I really think so.
Well, it was the first one I thought of outside of Portland. If Portland, like if we only go post-merger and Portland is the first team there, and Portland also, how many upsets did they have, that kind of thing. So there's one that stands out to me as well. I wonder if we're thinking of the same one.
I think we are. So maybe let's for fun, not like psychically communicate. What's the word called? You can talk through your minds, a very X-Men type thing.
Psychedelics.
Nope, that's definitely not.
Okay, all right.
Man, this is terrible. This is my whole. I can't remember where I was trying to
sensory perception.
I was trying to describe a cafeteria to a student yesterday, and I was like, maybe in the room where you eat food. It just left me. So that's where we are right now.
You've reached that point in life. It's
100%. It's just gone. Okay, let me bring up maybe a runner-up that I wonder if people are thinking of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think about the 2006 Miami Heat?
I feel like, so I have them written down with a question mark because I feel like they're a little too good. I feel like what happened with them is the 2005 team got to Game 7 of the conference finals. Dwayne Wade has like a little back injury. They don't defeat the Pistons. I think if he doesn't get the injury, they defeat the Pistons. Then they have this weird 2006 sort of like, we were basically a championship team season. The kind of season you see from teams that are like defending the title, with the exception of the coaching change. Although, frankly, Pat Riley coming in for Stan Van Gundy. Pat Riley also came in for a championship coach with the Lakers around 1982, I think, when Magic Johnson was like, I've had enough of my coach. Let's get somebody else in here. So very similar. You had all these transactional changes. So I don't know. I think there are some better ones. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I just want to throw out a couple of things. Number one, they beat that Pistons team in, I think, a 6-game series that's pretty good. And that kind of ends like the true part of the Pistons run. Like the Pistons had been in the finals the previous 2 years, with 2004 being the championship year. It's the last year that Ben Wallace is with the Pistons before he signs with the Chicago Bulls. Underrated here. They beat the Bulls in the first round. You know who people forget about, Ben? That Ben Gordon dude was a bucket. Ben Gordon was a bucket. And there's a game, if you go back again to 2005, maybe 2007, I think it's 2007. He and Michael Redd, Milwaukee Bucks fame, 48 points for Ben Gordon, 52 points for Michael Redd.
Oh wow,
that dude could get some baskets.
Cody,
I'm
you're
not sure
giving
if he was actually that good. But
any new listener to this is like, what are these guys talking about? And all the veterans are like, now Cody's listing old names. This is great. Now we're getting somewhere. Here's my thing with that run and why I'm gonna like sort of try to categorize where Indiana's at right now.
Mm-hmm.
That run with the Heat, it was really only the Pistons that, once you get to the finals was sort of like a surprise. And it's not even that surprising. That's my point. It's not even that surprising. I don't know the exact odds on that series off the top of my head, but I thought Miami was going to win the series. I think if they were healthy, but there's a weird thing with that team where they had like infighting all year, and they had a bunch of veterans come in, and they had Jason Williams and Gary Payton and Antoine Walker. And so they only won like 52 games compared to the year before, where I think they won 59 or something like that. So it doesn't have the same texture of like multiple upsets, that kind of thing.
My final point with is they go down 0-2 against the Mavericks. Dwayne Wade, and this is probably the original foul merchant. Like I remember, who was the owner of the Mavericks at the time?
Mark Cuban.
Oh yeah, he came out.
I think he's a Shark Tank actor.
He was unhappy about Dwayne Wade's foul calls. But in the last 4 games where the Miami Heat win, Dwayne Wade averages 39 points per game on 62% true shooting. Unbelievable comeback.
He was SGA before SGA.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
That was an incredible run, but you're right. I still think it's on the outside looking in.
And I think it's like the 2010 Celtics run, which has this pedigree of like the 2008 championship team. They kind of get forgotten because of Garnett's injury, and then they are fairly sizable underdogs in the second round against Cleveland, and they come out and they just punk Cleveland right in the mouth. And I want to say it was like game 5 of that series. Jeff Van Gundy is on the call, and he goes, the Celtics are the favorites. And I think he was with Mike Breen at the time. And Mike Breen's like, you mean in the series? And he goes, no, I mean to win the title. And then they won that series. They beat the Magic, and then they lost to the Lakers in 7. Like, those are really good runs. But I think the list that I'm going to put Indiana in and try to contextualize, I think there's more oomph in the objective categories than these teams like Miami and Boston that we mentioned that have like a championship pedigree.
I agree with you. I agree. Another one, I'm going to quickly throw us out there. 2007. You might think that LeBron finals run was really super cool. First 2 rounds, The Pistons round was super cool, but again, no Ben Wallace. He has the huge scoring game, but then he gets to the Spurs and they just kind of
it's one series. It's one series. That's the thing. And I felt that way about the 1986 Houston Rockets. They have one series upset against the Lakers. It's kind of fun, but whatever. Even the next year, the 87 Sonics, I think, have an upset, and then they lose to the Lakers. So there's that. But when we get to real magic, Cody, I think 2020 has 2 of them.
Has 2 of them?
2 of them.
I'm guessing this is actually really interesting. This is interesting because one of them is going to be the Miami Heat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the other one?
I think the Nuggets going back to back from down 3-1 to get all the way to the conference finals. That was quite a run.
That was magical. I personally was filtering for having to make the finals. Like, you had to make it to the final round of the playoffs for me to consider that. But you're absolutely right. Like, that's an incredible push from there. I think that's maybe, is that really the first Jokic breakout when he was really putting himself on the map? So that in itself, like, makes it deserve a little bit of credit here.
Yep. What others do you have before we move off this?
Okay, so do you think the 2020 Heat run is more magical than the 2023 Heat run?
I have them right next to each other.
Okay.
It gets weird because I feel like the Heat beat better teams in 2020 in the bubble.
Okay.
But in 2023, it was just wilder. It was absolutely wild. The law firm of the Zombie Heat were truly born in 2023. So I kind of have to give it to 2023.
I mean, Jimmy Butler goes crazy. He has like a 50-piece against the Bucks. Has a ridiculous alley-oop and one. And I think of the closeout game. They beat the Celtics between the Celtics 2 finals run. They go up. Did they go up 3-0 or 3-1 in the series?
Against the Celtics?
Yeah.
It was 3-0, and then it went to 3-3.
And then it went to 3-3. Tatum gets injured right away at the beginning of the game. But that was an all-time, like, I don't know what's about to happen in this game 7. Of course, some of the steam was let out when Tatum went out there and hurt I think it was ankle that game. But then again, steam kind of ran out in the finals. So I think that takes a little bit of the excitement out of the run.
Okay, so I think there's the one that
Yeah,
you and
let's
I
go.
are mind melding on, but there's also another one that gets overlooked.
Okay.
Yeah.
This isn't what you're thinking. I think the 98 ending run for the Bulls is a sneaky, fun run with the end of the era. Pippen's back is falling apart. Malone wins MVP,
That's a great
and then
call.
I think that's a sneaky, magical run. Ben,
I was too close to that to include that. Yeah, I watched all those games.
oh.
I was hooked. I had a Bulls IV right into my arm.
Was that the series when the Bulls beat the Jazz by like 50 in one of the games, or was that 97?
No, that was 98.
That
That was 98.
yeah.
It was like 96-54 in game 4. It was not a good look.
No.
And then the Jazz came back, or maybe it was game 3. Maybe it was game 3, and then game 4 was closer, and then the Jazz won game 5, and then game 6 was the classic Michael Jordan last game in Chicago. This is a really interesting call. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've forgotten one though. You've forgotten one.
You're not thinking like 95 Rockets, are you?
Wait a second. That's not the one we're mind melding on?
Wait, no. Are we converging now? Are we actually saying
95 Rockets I thought was the one that you thought was the most magical?
No, it's not. Oh,
okay.
This is exciting. Give me your case for 95.
95 was unbelievable. They beat like all the 60-win teams repeatedly, despite being a 5 or 6 seed or whatever they were, and completely looked like they were faltering after the Clyde Drexler trade. And every one of those games, like coming back from behind, winning game 5, the decisive game 5 in Utah to upset the Jazz when the West was wide open, and then coming back from, I think, down 3-1 against the Suns in the next round, and then the mano-a-mano duel against David Robinson when they put the MVP trophy out there, and then culminating where the Magic, I believe the Magic were favorites in the finals and they got swept. That was what I thought you were talking about. That was just beyond magical. That was one of the wildest rides for like 6 weeks in basketball history.
In terms of knocking out some of the all-time greats, like I think that's definitely that's as close to being in the circle as you can get in my mind. Here's where I knock it off a couple of points on my rubric here, Ben. In 94, the Rockets win 58 games and they win the championship. It's a repeat, right? I think part of the magic kind of has to come from nowhere a little bit. And of course, like you said, they faltered a little bit after Drexler. They had Clyde Drexler and Hakeem Olajuwon. Like, this is like post Jordan. What's about to happen? I mean, not exactly post Jordan, because he comes back and the Magic go and knock out the Bulls, and it's like, oh my goodness, the Shaq and the Bulls, Penny and the Bulls are gonna. I mean, then the Magic are gonna do it. So there's a lot of elements that do make it magical, but I think the 94 run takes a little bit of shine off 95.
That's how magical it was, Cody. Yeah. That it supersedes that criteria. We actually forgot to mention, didn't the 2023 Heat? Didn't they lose a play-in game? Weren't they almost eliminated in the play-in? That's absolutely incredible. Okay.
Were they down against the Bulls?
Yeah, they were like down late in a play-in game or something. Okay, so you must be thinking, the run that you must be thinking of is the Marcus Camby 1999 New York Knicks.
It actually isn't. It isn't.
That's it. I have listed all the great runs. What's going on?
The 2011 Mavericks. I think the 2011
Mavericks. Oh, okay.
I think the 2011 Mavericks is the most magical run that we've seen. There's a lot of different arcs. Like, you have the Marion post-Suns failure in Miami and failure in Toronto. And I know he had some injuries and whatever else. Dirk was soft. We had written him all off. There was no chance that this guy won MVP and got knocked out of the first round after winning 67 games was going to do anything. Tyson Chandler, who's struggling with some injuries. People weren't sure, like, if they should be signing him coming out of here. He goes and it's the year before wins Defensive Player of the Year. No J Kidd. Like, sure, he made it to the finals, but at the end of the day, was he actually going to get the championship for them? And then
what do you mean no J Kidd? Wait,
no J Kidd.
What's no J Kidd?
No J Kidd. He was J Kidd, but he had no J. So no J Kidd, man.
Ace and Kidd.
Ace, yeah, no, I like no J Kidd better because the name is J Kidd.
I know, I got so confused. I thought you meant they didn't have J Kidd.
Oh, yeah. I'm like a logic problem. Like, no J Kidd.
Yeah.
But then in the actual run, they knock out the Blazers. It was a competitive first round, 6 games. They sweep the Lakers the year after they win the championship. They go and knock out the Thunder the year before the Thunder make it to the finals. And then they take on the villain Heatles, right? Like, the LeBron took on the villain archetype before. It was like, this isn't me. I can't do this anymore. And they knock him out behind Rick Carlisle's tutelage, Ben. Tutelage. Dirk Nowitzki shoots like 72% from three in that Lakers series. I think it's magical on so many levels on a team that everyone had written off. Caron Butler gets injured, I think, on January 1st. Their net rating drops just a little bit. They're like a 4.6 or something net rating across the year. But when Dirk, Chandler, and Kidd are on the court in the playoffs, Ben, plus 14.5 net rating. Like, that team rocked. And I don't know. I don't remember what people said, but no one thought that they were going to go and win the championship.
Well, they didn't have Roddy Beaubois either. I mean, I won't stand for that erasure of him at this point in time. So if the Pacers win, that's better than all those. You agree?
Yeah. Okay. If they win, I think this is the most magical run.
Yeah, that would be just nuts
in NBA history.
It'd be absolutely nuts. They would beat 2 60-win teams. They would beat a near 70-win team. They would win 3 series in a row where they were underdogs. And I believe I think they're like the longest shot ever betting wise from the preseason. I know they were like 18th or 20th over the summer odds wise or something like that. Want to do our all playoff teams?
Sure. I guess we're gonna talk about the preview bit, so I'll save that question. But yeah, let's do all playoff teams right now.
Yeah.
What an episode this is, Ben. What an episode. This is 2 gimmicks in a row. Like, this is incredible. I'm ready to go. This is fun.
I think that we should just declare the all playoff teams right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to play at least past the first round.
Yep.
And it's got to have a semblance of a team. You got to have at least one big, one wing, one guard, and then you got to make a team with your other 2 slots. What do you think about that?
Okay, of course I'm not going to answer your question. I'm going to ask you a philosophical question instead. Ben, do you think when you're thinking of all playoff teams, can your finals performance knock you down in the all playoff team selection?
Yeah, I think so, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you probably go back to 2011 LeBron.
Yeah,
this is a pretty clear case.
Yeah, this is what I asked you, the same version of this question. If we do top 10 teams again, which I think is now more than ever one of the more interesting things to take stock of at the end of a year, but it was our most hated episode we've ever done. I'm not sure people can't square that circle. It'd be like watching a tennis tournament and then being like, well, let's rank the best players in the tennis tournament. Mm-hmm. Even though it's not quite a one-to-one because of the way basketball works and series works and things like that, and matchups and whatnot, but we might not do it is my point. And so I texted Cody and I said something like, what did I ask you? Can the finals, you had a great answer. I asked you about the finals.
Oh my goodness. You did ask me a good question.
Yeah. This is great radio. Neither of us can remember the exact wording.
I'm going to be annoying and I'm going to pull up the text right now.
I'm just saying it was a very similar version of what you just asked me about at the player level. If we were to evaluate how guys play. Oh, I remember it was an all-time team.
Yep.
It was an all-time team. And I said, if you were ranking like we did our pace and space top 10 teams, if you were to rank a team like Indiana or Oklahoma City before the finals, how much should we reasonably move a team based on one matchup or one round? And I thought you had a great answer to that. And I think it's a similar thing that applies with LeBron James, which is essentially like, well, if you go out there and you do something that we haven't seen and it's superhuman, that's a new data point that should get some weight that moves you up. And if you do the exact opposite and you absolutely fall apart, and it's something we haven't seen, like Indiana comes out with a 4-1 zone that no one's ever seen before, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander averages 9 points a game. Like, we have to account for that in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I think my response, based on what I just read, so I don't even know if that counts as memory anymore, but what happens is by them getting to the finals in the way that both of these teams have, they've given themselves like a level that we should respect them for. Like, they can't drop below a level. It can't be like, this is one of the worst runs we've seen. But like, let's say we're talking about the Thunder and we're talking about some of the most dominant seasons of all time. If they go in and end up losing the series, you have to start nitpicking a lot when you come down to it at some of those greatest teams ever. Like, you just can't compete with the best team of all time if you don't win the finals, Ben. And same with the Pacers. Like, it's that Mavericks thing I was just talking about. It can't be the most magical run if you don't end up winning the finals then behind it. So it's the nitpicky part where it changes it a lot at the top, but in the whole grand scheme of things, both of these teams deserve an incredible amount of respect that can't be taken away from.
So, all playoff first team. Who do you got?
Okay. I think when I was making this, there were 2 guys that I said 100% get 100% of Cody Brain's vote share And I think Jokic and SGA were my only two 100% vote shares.
Not Halliburton.
We could talk about that in a second.
Oh, well, I'd like to, because he was the third guy for me that I was like, that's the third easy one.
Okay.
I think. Yeah. Who would bump him into a major question area for you?
So, okay, we're making these to try and look like a basketball team, right? We're not just jamming in the 5 best players here.
Right? I would say that I don't have to worry about making a team and fielding them and coming up with coverages to use them and things like that. But I think the positional restriction is always something akin to like the best small guard, the best wings, and the best bigs. And as I was saying at the top, if you want to have a double big team, you can do that. If you want to have a double point guard team, you can do that. But I try to keep it within a semblance of that structure, so it's still something that reflects the all NBA. Yeah.
So in terms of that, I would say you have Jokic, you have SGA, so you have 3 spots. In my mind, you have like 2 more spots for a guard type person. And I feel like I think that came down to like Halliburton, Brunson, Donovan Mitchell. And I think those are probably the ones people would have conversations about.
Okay, interesting. So you think, I guess for you, the hard part was then Halliburton over Donovan Mitchell.
Yes. Well, okay, here's the hard part. This is the 100% vote share. Like 98% vote share went Halliburton. But I was saying that I had to stop and think about it for a second. Like I didn't hesitate just writing down Jokic and SGA's names.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Yeah. I mean, the thing with all 3 of those guards is defensive issues for the most part, right? We can nitpick some of the limitations that they have on offense. I think with Mitchell was in an interesting situation, doing a lot of heavy lifting for that team, and then starting to battle through the sprained ankles and things like that he always picks up in a series. But defensively, you are a weak spot. Jalen Brunson is a weak spot. They've had challenges defensively at times, and Halliburton is as well. Although I think Halliburton has had moments where he's used his size really, really well defensively, and he's been a little bit more aware, coordinated off the ball. So I think push come to shove, it was Halliburton for me.
Yeah, Halliburton, being at 6'5", I think he was good at defensive playmaking. Like he picks up some more steals from just flying around. He definitely tries out there. He's not somebody that like falls asleep all the time or just like isn't interested in playing defense. I do think like you go back and watch that Cavs series, and it was just an unbelievably valiant effort from Mitchell. And I don't know, like if you want to take this as part of the argument, if you stacked up everyone's just like 10-minute highlight clip from the playoffs, I don't know if anyone competes with Mitchell. I just don't know if anyone in these playoffs competes with Mitchell. Like there are some of those stretches, and like I'm thinking of like the third quarter in one of those Pacers Cavs games where Mitchell just goes to the basket. He's like, I am going to go there. I'm going to show off some shots that only Michael Jordan could pull off. I'm going to dunk on people, and by this, whatever I can do, I'm going to keep this team alive. And I found that incredibly impressive and valiant, especially when one of his running mates in Darius Garland just wasn't playing as well as he was in the regular season. So I don't know. I think Mitchell should be at least talked about in this conversation.
Cody, I got to get something at the door. Crazy emergency. Got to run to the door.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Spectacular. I'm pretty partial to Jormungandr in Norse mythology.
What are you talking about?
We'll just roll with that. I was fielding questions. Someone asked me about mythical creatures. So yeah, that's where we were.
All right. If there was a first, I'm back.
This is amazing. I think we handled it. There was a second there where I paused, but we're good to go now. So I think we ended with the idea that maybe Halliburton gets the nod over Donovan Mitchell in this. But like I was saying, I think Mitchell at least deserves like a conversation in a spot in this conversation.
Fair. I think totally fair. So I had Halliburton, Brunson, SGA, Jokic. Who was your 5th guy?
I had a really difficult time with this 5th guy. I just want to ask you, did you have a difficult time?
I had a difficult time because I don't know what to do with Jason Tatum and his injury and that kind of thing. That's kind of where I got stuck, because I think it would be Tatum, and I'm not really sure how to handle that.
I stuck Tatum in the second team just because
I did too.
You know, here, Ben, I went to my heart on this one. I stopped trying to be logical about it, and I just thought, who's the guy that I want out there? Who's impressed me? Who's standing out? I went with Pascal Siakam in that last spot.
Same, Pascal Siakam.
Yes, Ben. So we have the same first team.
We do. What about second team? So Mitchell goes to the second team. Tatum goes to the second team. Yep. I had Anthony Edwards. Did you not have him on the second team?
No, apparently I didn't.
No, tell me more.
Okay, let's talk about this. Let's get some people angry at us. I didn't know what to do with the Timberwolves people because they do an incredible job in the Lakers series, right? They win that series. It's all great. They go to the second round. The second round basically doesn't exist after Steph Curry goes down, right? And then they go to the Thunder and just get smacked around, right? So I just don't know. Maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe I'm just like, I wanted more from Edwards, but also he played against the Thunder, so no one can really give more against that defense. I don't know. I'm willing to put him there. So here, I had Steph Curry.
Okay, I didn't know what to do with Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Because he just plays like one game in the second round. It felt like cheating a little bit in the sense that we said, you know, hey, we're not going to have people that don't make it past the first round. And he made it past the first round, but for one extra quarter.
But he was pretty like that first round.
It was great.
It was a dogfight, and he went nuts, like old school Curry. And I that counted for something in my heart, Ben.
I hear you. He was fantastic. I went with Evan Mobley.
Yes.
As a big.
Him. Okay.
Yeah. And I have one. So this last spot was tough for me.
Wait. Last spot. You said Mitchell, Tatum.
Mobley.
Oh, you didn't know what to do with Curry. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with Curry. I think if Curry counts, we can put Curry here. But I had Mobley, Tatum, Mitchell, Anthony Edwards, and then there's one more spot.
I flirted with putting Aaron Gordon here, Ben.
I put Aaron Gordon here.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
He was really good. He was really good all around.
When
offense,
we think about
defense, versatility, shooting.
That second round series against the Thunder, in retrospect, it's unbelievable. They went 7 games. They went 7 games against the Thunder, right? And Aaron Gordon's defensive versatility, what he was able to do on offense, stretching the floor, right? Just gutting it out through an injury. I think he deserves a spot on one of these two teams. And so because of all that, do I think that Aaron Gordon played better than Anthony Edwards? Probably not. But at the end of the day, this is a list that I just made for my heart, and Aaron Gordon was in my heart more, Ben.
Did you consider Jalen Williams or Chet Holmgren or anyone like that? Derek White?
I did consider Derek White pretty strongly. I didn't know what to do with the other Thunder guys. Again, there's 9 guys who's an all defensive level, and it's not fair that they got hurt a little bit, but
I think if there was a third team, I would just start having a bunch of, because I did consider that. And let me give one more shout out to someone else that I also considered around here, which is OG Anunoby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Here's what I wanted to ask. Okay. You'd pick OG Anunoby over Karl Anthony Towns, right?
That's really interesting. Yeah, I did not. Yeah, I would. I think so. Yeah.
I know. So this is where I was coming with that. Towns, his strength, what he was able to do offensively, kept them afloat in a couple of spots as much as they could in that Pacers series.
It's true. Yeah.
But there's something about what OG was doing on defense, some of the fill in the blanks shot making he was doing. It felt a little bit more important and irreplaceable then.
Let's break down who's going to win the 2025 NBA championship, and you're going to have to tell me why it's not going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Okay. In my heart, I was I'm going to show up to this episode, and I'm going to have just the best reason to pick the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah.
I'm going to show up here and do it, and I can't do it. There's just no avenue that I can point to and be this is how the Pacers are going to win this bet.
Here's the thing. This is almost why I wanted to save this for the end, because it makes me sad. I think it's a bad basketball matchup for Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Because they're so guard centric in the way that they're able to do a lot of their actions, and the Thunder are so good at guarding that sort of stuff.
It's more than that. It's the speed, right? So when we think of Indiana, we think of the speed that they have, and Oklahoma City's so fast. When we think of Indiana, we think of getting out in transition. Oklahoma City's transition defense is incredible. When we think of Indiana, we think of how they can move you side to side and create mismatches. And there's no mismatches in Oklahoma City. I think the Thunder weakest defensive point going into this series on paper to me is Isaiah Hartenstein. He's really good. I think the Pacers will probably find some decent offense, bringing him up and putting him into screening actions and things like that. It's going to be tough for them to score. It's going to be really tough for them to score. I just think it's a terrible matchup for their offense.
And I think if you had asked me after the second round, like if we went somehow magically from the second round, the Thunder just never played the Timberwolves, and then we went straight from the Knicks series from the Pacers and they went to the finals, I would probably tell you something about like J-Dub gets in his head, the shot's not falling, he's falling in love with that mid-range shot. Chet's three-point shot is shooting like 18% from three. Dort is taking 17 threes a game. He makes about one of them. Cason Wallace is not making some shots. Shai has to just do absolutely everything. And to me, like, that's about the only avenue I could have taken. This is my Doctor Strange. Like, this is the one way that this is actually going to work out. But man, that last series ended with Chet looked fantastic. J-Dub looked fantastic. Like, Dort was making some shots like more than previous rounds. And if any of that continues, like if they go into this final series thinking like, hey, we're rolling, let's just keep this going. I just do not think, I don't think they're beatable. And I'm afraid, I'm just afraid, Ben, that this is going to be a sweep. I don't want it to be a sweep, but I'm nervous that it's going to be a sweep.
It has that lopsidedness on paper to the matchup. That's what concerns me. I think some bright spots for Indiana are that they understand, and they've demonstrated in their regular season matchups, hey, we got to give Shai a bunch of different bodies and looks and crowd them and things like that. So I think you are going to see some cool defensive coverages. You are going to see zones. You are going to see things that maybe approximate what Denver tried to do. But I don't know if any of it matters if the Pacers can't pace.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if that Indiana offense, as a simple example, the Thunder can switch so many screens that they want to switch. They also aren't a team that just automatically soft switches everything. So they're going to have a guy hounding you when you come off your screening action. The Pacers have had so much success in these playoffs, either finding the right matchup and then having a big on the interior exploit that matchup, or getting out in transition, or running early, kind of like early pick and roll sets and things like that. Okay, so you look at the Oklahoma City tape. Oklahoma City just switches that. They kill all those advantages right out of the gate. They just nullify it right out of the gate. Then you think about, well, what happens when you have a mouse in the house and you get a mismatch? There isn't a better team. This goes back to the technique stuff we were talking about at the top of the show. There is not a better team, maybe ever, at getting smalls, fronting the post, having a guy come from the backside. And in their earlier matchups, like the Pacers got a couple free throws and buckets off those, but they also had a lot of turnovers off those. And so another bright spot for Indiana is like they're naturally a low turnover team. But what happens is when you take away that primary point of attack that they like to attack, it doesn't create an advantage. Now you slow their pace down. Now you push them deeper into the possession. And now it's a little bit easier to get those turnover situations for Oklahoma City. So I don't think they'll have 25 live ball turnovers and do the thing where they score 45 points in a row in a quarter like that. But it's more stuff that you're like, it's hard to get a on paper advantage for the Pacers here. I think the last thing that the Pacers have that kind of extends beyond paper is the Thunder in the playoffs. Some of the role players, they can get cold. And the Pacers have had the opposite. The Pacers are like, can we get a game where Aaron Nesmith hits 7 threes? And I think that's why I wouldn't be like, yeah, I would expect a sweep or something like that. But there's a big difference between winning a game or winning 2 games and making it look competitive and then really having a good pathway to win 4 games. And that's where I'm worried about Indiana.
I think it was on the most recent Zach Lowe podcast, the Lowe Show. I think he had Kirk Goldsberry on, who shared this stat that it was like the Pacers had the fastest time across half court of any other team in the NBA, like talking about pace and what that looks like. And I just wonder, with the way that the Thunder are able to extend their defense 98 feet, right? Just covering people. Like, are they going to be able to limit that? Like, it would be really fun to see like how long it takes the Pacers to actually get the ball off the court, and if that impacts the way that they're able to run the offense they want to run.
Well, they were a little bit slower in the 2 games against the Thunder in the regular season, I think, because they had to go deeper into the shot clock. So if you look at their pace on first chance actions every time they have a possession, it's about 13 and a half seconds. Typically against the Thunder in the 2 games they played, it was 14 seconds. That's the difference between being like top 6 or 7 in the league and dropping to about 17th or something like that. So just like constant signals that are a little scary for Indiana. As I said, I think they found some success involving Isaiah Hartenstein in the actions, and then you go look and you're like, okay, so last year the Pacers played the Knicks when Hartenstein was on the Knicks. What was the pick and roll efficiency when Halliburton attacked Hartenstein with the Knicks defense behind him? Not the Thunder defense behind him, the Knicks defense behind him. And he ran 80 pick and rolls in that series with an 88.6 offensive rating. Against all other Knicks defenders in that series, Halliburton ran 337 picks with a 109 offensive rating. So, like, again, I think that's a spot they can find some success, but it's just you're not finding any low-hanging fruit really easily, I think.
I feel like the lowest hanging fruit that you see from the Pacers, especially in that, I guess not even especially, just across all of it, is the Siakam running out and Halliburton finding him and he gets out. So I'm interested to see like how buttoned up the Thunder are and if they're able to keep up with just like the relentless offensive motor that Siakam has, the incredible finishing, the touch he has. That it is not easy. Like I want to emphasize, like when you see these guys running out in transition and there's like a couple NBA players next to them and they're like taking a couple steps that are like loping around and they're contorting their body and finishing. That is not easy. Like, I don't care if you're 6'9", 6'8", or whatever else, long arms and whatever else. Siakam is a tremendous transition finisher. So I wonder how or if the Thunder will be slowing down that like transition push. But on the other end with Siakam, I shouldn't say the other end, but in a half court situation, Siakam loves taking advantage of his size and his strength, and he can back people down and sees a double team and he takes a step back or turn around fade away. I don't see too many guys in the Thunder team that he could just bully down in the post. Like, I don't know what the matchup is for Siakam to slip down and be like, great, I got an advantage. It's not Lu Dort, right? I don't think it's Shai. It's not Chet. It's not Hartenstein. So I don't know. I think Siakam is maybe the main guy I'm interested in watching to see where his offense comes from in the series.
And maybe the Siakam Jalen Williams matchup if we get it quite a bit. Because I was really interested in the Siakam Anunoby, and Siakam was amazing in that series. But there's two things that are a little different. Jalen Williams' strength as a defender is a little different than Anunoby's strength as a defender, and he uses that length so well. And the other thing that's different is Siakam got to be the benefit of whatever Indiana created in transition with cross matches, with switches, and then play into Anunoby on his terms. The sweet spots that he loves to get. And it was awesome to watch. I loved every time they matched up, and Pascal was amazing. Like, hats off. But when you watch the tape with the Thunder, the defense is usually going to be a little shrunken in. There's going to be like a little mighty might, like Alex Caruso is going to come over and do something crazy. Lu Dort's going to come over and poke at the ball. It's a different dynamic. And so this is what I mean, Cody, like up and down, I'm just looking for spots where I'm like, I want the Indiana offense to shine. I want it to breathe. I want it to be competitive. I want to get that magical flow. And every time you look at the matchup, either on paper or on the film, both when they play other teams in general and in their two regular season matchups during the season, you're just like, you Thunder, your defense is too good. I have to say this. We've done what we love to do. We've saved the best for last instead of putting it at the top, because we like to reward the people who listen all the way to the end instead of making it very entertaining at the beginning of the show. Cody, do you know Oklahoma City's margin of victory at home in the playoffs?
Per 100?
No, just per game. What's their margin of victory per game?
I don't remember. Playoffs. One of the pods I listened to listed all of them, and there's a lot of 30s and 40s. I'm gonna guess it's something like 18 points or something like that.
That's a good guess. At home, the Oklahoma City Thunder in the playoffs have a margin of victory of 24 points per game.
It's not even fair. It's not even fair. I mean, is there like a 50-point win against the Grizzlies?
By the way, people were not happy when I said the Nuggets, the only team to even come close to beating Oklahoma City at home, played a great game when they won that game in game one of their series. The only team to beat them, I think the only team to come close to beating them at home in a game. The other game they also had a comeback in the fourth quarter against the Nuggets, won that game by like 6 or 8 points. Man, the Nuggets we can't get into the top 10 teams right now. People will get upset, but
yeah, not yet. We have to save the upsetment for for later. One thing that I am excited about is there's something I feel like I need to come to task for this one. We've talked about some of the best. I think we talked about maybe the best coaches of the pace and space era when we did the whole pace and space thing. I think I may have floated out the idea of like maybe we need to look at Rick Carlisle's career because things haven't been great since 2011.
You mean in a negative way?
Yeah.
Oh.
I floated that out just a little bit because I was like, it hasn't been pretty. It hasn't.
No one remembers that.
So I want to say that just to say that I know I'm not perfect and I've said some silly things in the world. So with that all said, I'm really interested to see what the genius Rick Carlisle is going to bake up, because you made the joke about like, oh, the Pacers are going to come out with a 4-1 zone or something like that. Who knows? Like, they know they're massive underdogs. Rick Carlisle is in the lab knowing that they cannot play this game. Like, you were so mad, Ben. You were so angry texting me when the Timberwolves.
Why are you outing me like this?
You're like, why are the Wolves defending Shai straight up? Like, what's going on? I don't think it's going to be a time where Rick's like, vanilla man-to-man, guys. Let's just see how this works for us. Like, I'm excited to see what sort of stuff he's going to try, if he's going to. Like, it's like you go back to 2019, the finals, and you're like, oh, is this a triangle in 2 zone that Nick Nurse is running against Steph Curry? I'm expecting to see some fun stuff like that.
I think that's another sort of vibes thing that the Pacers have going. In 2011, Rick Carlisle cooked up some really nice zone and overloading defenses for LeBron James. And LeBron James, I mean, there's other stuff going on there, but that was by far LeBron James' roughest go in a playoff series. And, you know, that's what you have to do to win this series. You got to come up with something that takes Shai from where he's at and like chops his legs out, takes him down a rung. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you're going like, oh my God, Jalen Williams is having a cold shooting night. What's happening to the Thunder offense? Because I do think on that side, the Pacers, there's at least room for them to do something that brings the Oklahoma City offensive rating down and makes it more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Icky?
No, well, yes, the offense would be icky. I was just thinking the margin of error would give them like a decent puncher's chance in those situations. So yeah, I will say analytically, maybe the number one thing for me that I'm also nervous about is this feels like one of those game one's really important series. Mm-hmm. And game one is always relatively important because, the team that wins game one wins a lot. And what you can learn sometimes is where a matchup is, but sometimes you just go into a series and game one is a feeling out process, or it's a data collection, or one team gets hot and they win the series and you're like, that didn't really change how I feel about the series. But if Indiana can come out and in game one do something tactically that creates, like, let me go back to what I just said, that changes that margin of error for them and shrinks it and brings it real close, then the ball goes back into Oklahoma City's court and they have to figure out a counter. They have to figure out a way to undo what they did. So I'm really looking at game one to see if the Pacers can find areas of success, mostly on offense, because that's where I think they have a much better chance of making this a very competitive series if they can get that offense going. That's just the side where I'm just like, every time I try to uncrack the nut and put myself in the Pacers coaching staff shoes, I'm like, well, yeah, I don't know exactly how I would attack the Oklahoma City defense, because the Oklahoma City defense is the best defense I've ever seen in the history of basketball.
I wonder, okay, so you think about the way I've joked about the Jokic zone that the Thunder have played. They put like Caruso or whomever else at the nail, just try and stop people from catching in that area. Where's the like zone that you want to keep the Pacers out of? Like, is there a place where the Thunder are like, we want to get them out of this area? Or is the fact that they kind of just dominate like the space outside of the arc, does that make them maybe a little bit more difficult to guard, where the defense might not see as much success?
You mean geometrically the spots on the floor?
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
So I mean, God, this is where I keep getting stuck. They're so good at that foul line extended above the arc on the wing, getting tons of screens and ghost screens, blur screens, shallow cuts across the paint. It's so awesome. I love it. It's my favorite part of their offense. But also, the Thunder love to extend all the guards out there. They love to extend with their speed and cover and deny those plays. And so it's like, okay, we're going to sprint Aaron Nesmith across the middle of the floor, and he may or may not set a screen. I don't know if there's a team better equipped in NBA history than the Caruso, Wallace, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams battery of all NBA defenders that they have to defend those exact actions. In their game in March, there was an after timeout that the Pacers like to run. And it involves like sending, we won't do it on radio, but the point is Halliburton goes down under the basket and he does some cool stuff and he flies back up to get the ball in a semi-advantageous position. I mean, maybe he's open, he scores, maybe he keeps running off a pick or a handoff. He didn't get the ball because whoever was on him, I think it might have been Lou Dort, just jammed the cut, denied him all the way out near half court. And then like when you drop the play, you're like not really expecting Halliburton doesn't get ball as one of the options. So then you're just stuck holding the hot potato and there's 12 seconds on the shot clock and then you go into something else. And that's sort of my biggest concern. Yeah. What were you going to say?
This is really far from analytical, but this is just a specious statistical argument.
Once we're after an hour, you can pretty much, just go on vibes.
Let me ask you this. Okay. What do you think if you had to put these two circumstances together or next to each other, which one do you think had or has a better chance of happening? Which is kind of tough to ask because one of them already happened. Would you have said that there's a better chance that neither the Celtics nor the Cavaliers make it to the conference finals? Or do you think there's a better chance for the Pacers to beat the Thunder?
Oh, wow. I think it has to, because it requires two events.
Mm-hmm.
I think it kind of has to be a better chance for the Pacers to beat the Thunder.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Pacers are like 3% or something. They're not like some historical long shot. It's just when we talk about series and we break them down and we handicap them, it's like you've got a couple rough buckets, you can say. You got something close to a coin flip where you think it's very close. Mm-hmm. You have competitive, but you lean one way. And then you go into this next phase of like, oh yeah, this one team has a pretty sizable advantage and I'm having a hard time seeing what the other team can do. I think that's where I am with this series.
So I think if you're a Pacers fan, like you can look back and say, hey, look how the fates have spun this web so far. This Pacers team is the team of destiny. And if you hang on to that, like maybe that push aside all the analytical nonsense. They're gonna jam the screen, Ben. They're gonna do all this other kind of nonsense out there. We're the team of destiny. Halliburton, you just list the guys. Halliburton, Nesmith, Nembhard, Siakam. Are you kidding me? This team's going to win it all. I think that's what the Pacers can hold on to.
I think you left out Miles Turner, who has to have a huge series. He has to have a huge series if they're going to win this series, both with shot making, execution defensively, everything. He has to have a huge series. Obviously, you need – I mean, Cody, this is the thing. The Pacers get so much mileage out of Nembhard and then to some degree, Ben Shepherd off the bench and Aaron Nesmith when they swap him in, being able to pick up your like point of attack and make like life difficult for him. And Nembhard's so good that he did some stuff that messed Shai up in the 2 games, right? He did some stuff. He's got some tricks. And then you like look up at the end of the game, you're like, oh, Shai had 40. You're like, okay. So again, from a matchup perspective, I think the Knicks had this a little bit. When you have a point of attack offensive centerpiece that Nembhard can't bother that much, it's just another thing that chips away in the matchup for Indiana. Whereas when they play 20-something other teams, like the other teams have to deal with Nembhard. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nembhard, I think, is going to do some cool stuff, but he's going to need a lot of help. You can't play Shai straight up with Nembhard or anyone else. Do
you think that Nembhard is, again, not straight up, but do you think Nembhard is the best matchup for Shai, or do you think Nesmith would be a better option for him?
Yeah, I don't know. I think probably Nembhard, but we'll see how they I think you have to defend it from a team concept. You have to defend it from the team level. It's 5 people. It takes a village, Cody. It takes a true village to try to stop Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from scoring.
I think that's initially where they came from. Speaking of where things come from, this feels like a post-show thing. So maybe I shouldn't actually say it.
To support us, patreon.com/thinkingbasketball. That's the best way to support us directly. I have no ability to think or do the outro right now, so we're just going to jump straight to what Cody was saying. I do have a question for you in the post show here.
Absolutely. We'll set this aside right away. But somebody in some of the comments somewhere I brought up the skinning a cat phrase last episode,
Yes.
and someone was like, that's actually coming from skinning a catfish. But actually, from what I was reading, is it seems like that would have predated the skinning of catfish. And there was actually some other phrases about like the best way to hang a dog. And there was just some weird, violent imagery that somehow got to the skinning a cat thing. So that didn't really get us to the answer of like, what's another way to say it? It's just the lore of skinning a cat is deepened on the Thinking Basketball podcast.
I'm not happy that you brought this back up. This is an animal cruelty-free, a cruelty-free animal. How would you say that? You know what I'm trying to say.
This is why I brought it up in the first place. I want an animal friendly way to say that there's more ways to skin a cat. Maybe there's more ways to pick on a cat in the pick and roll than.
Oh, I see. Is my dog, did she leave? Was she in the background earlier? She was hanging out.
I don't know. I don't see back there.
She was here earlier. I don't know.
Bring up Bill Walton. She'll come back again.
So here's the question from the audience for you, Cody.
Oh, okay.
Is your actual who is your favorite mythical creature? And is it actually Alex Caruso?
Is it Alex Caruso? Oh, I was saying it was although the Fates are a good choice there for it, because I feel like I bring up the Fates or Fate a couple of ways. I said Jormungandr in Norse mythology, although like related Apophis in Egyptian mythology. There's something about like giant primordial snakes that just seems like really cool and just, sticks with me in some kind of way, Ben.
You got anything else, or are we ready for the finals?
Oh man, I am ready for the finals. I really hope they give us something fun, because even though I don't necessarily think it's going to be a competitive series in terms of the outcome, I'm still pretty excited about it. Like I'm excited to sit down and watch and see how it turns out.
Big game one series, Cody. Big game one series.
Big game one series.
The Pacers got to come out and give me something.
Absolutely. It's not like 2007 where like the Spurs just punked the Cavs in the finals. Like I'm just hoping that it's not something like that, Ben.
The Pacers are so much better than that Cavs team, though. And I think that's lost in the shuffle. I saw some comments about like, how are the Pacers doing? They only won 50 games. They were this seed. It's like they started 10-15. They didn't have the Nembhard machine going. They needed Tyrese Halliburton had the hamstring and then the Olympics. And I think he's talked about this. Like he just wasn't quite right, both mentally and physically coming into the season. It took a while. It didn't actually take that long in retrospect, but they were just not a team in the first month or two of the year that was anything resembling the team we see right now. Not even close. And since then, they've played at a 58-60 win pace over a sustained period of time. And so if you had to make, from that perspective, if you had to make, like we talked about it all year, the power rankings of the inner circle teams, the Pacers would be maybe along with Denver, like the other team just like knocking on that door. Did we do a podcast about the surging Nuggets and Pacers in January? I feel like we did that.
Was it the Pacers too? I was thinking back when we did our very famous and not controversial podcast at all, the 25 under 25 draft. I don't know if we drafted Nembhard, because I think he had such a slow start that I remember at one point in the pod you were like, Cody, aren't you going to draft your favorite player Nembhard?
Mm-hmm.
And I was a little like, I haven't loved what I've seen. So you're right. Like the Pacers started in a place that they did not finish this season.
That's embarrassing. I would like to apologize to all basketball fans around the world, and especially our brethren in Indiana, for not drafting Andrew Nembhard, who's now over 25. And so that's it. We've lost the opportunity to do that.
He's got to be the oldest rookie in the NBA, Ben.
Thanks as always for listening to this one. I'm super excited to go back and listen to what I missed in the middle of the episode. And of course, we hope you enjoy the finals and that you're having a great day.